I'm Kimber Jenkins, the Executive Director of the Trauma Intervention Program.
My name is Matt Lutz. I work as a firefighter paramedic, and I'm a captain with Boise Fire.
So, the Trauma Intervention Program has been in the Treasure Valley since 2015. We're a group of highly trained volunteers that respond to 911 calls through our first responder agencies. TIP comes to the emotionally hurt on scene to provide emotional support and practical support.
I got involved with E-TIPS because I got to go to E-TIPS class down in Las Vegas about 2 years ago, and that was when I first met Kimber. And it blew me away, the content of the class and how impactful it was in my ability to better understand how to respond to people emotionally in crisis. And I realized that not only would that help me in my job out in the field, but it would also help me respond to and better support the members of the Boise Fire Department and other first responders that I care about. So I'm part of our CISM team. We call it now a peer support team. And this set of skills was just an amazing way to bridge the fundamentals that you learn in your peer support initial training and then being able to actually execute in the field, especially when you get somebody who's really, really, truly in a state of crisis.
Mm-hmm. So the Trauma Intervention Program, as we started working with our first responders on scene, we recognized that there was a need that we could help support them as well. So a couple years ago, we traveled to Las Vegas, Nevada, and participated in some training with their team. And that became a class that we now call E-TIP, which is emotional first aid for first responders, basically. And so we help to support them by teaching them the skills that we're using out on scenes to help support them. So when they're in crisis or when they leave a bad call, they have some tools in their toolbox to help support each other. One of the big things that we deal with through E-TIP is guilt, and how do we support our first responders in crisis when they have some guilt? What are the skills specifically that we can use to help them in their moments? It also helps to have our first responders trained through the TIP skills. We call them the 5 emotional first aid skills, because they can help survivors of tragedy on scene as well. When they leave the scene, it feels better knowing that they helped a family emotionally as well.
So Kimber and I co-teach this, as Kimber being the resident expert on the overall TIPS program. And I co-teach these E-TIPS class as the kind of give it a little context within the emergency first responder community. And we've taught about 5 classes here locally, and we've had an amazing turnout really, and great feedback. And it's a really valuable class, and we really like teaching it together, and we're looking to expand it. It really has a tremendous value in me being able to help support my brothers and sisters in the fire service and law enforcement in EMS.
So we're hoping to have a class coming up here in the beginning of November for first responders, as well as in the near future have a class for spouses of first responders, so that they have the same skills as well.
One of my passions and the reasons I got into helping Kimber teach this class was because I had a reckoning about 6 years ago with PTSD and my life kind of crashing down. And I realized that I was in a really dark place, and it took a lot of work to get myself out of that hole. And I relied on a lot of people to help me, and I basically decided that I needed to become more involved with our peer support team, and so that when other members of my community and the responding community are in a deep dark hole or they have crisis, that I know how to better respond and help them. And so it's been really an amazing set of tools, 5 emotional first aid skills, because I use them on scenes. I have used them repeatedly in the firehouse when somebody is in crisis or acting strange or has had a terrible call that, anything from my wife's going to divorce me to, a child is gravely sick. And so I've been able to use these skills in those ways. And oddly enough, I actually even use them outside the fire service, and I use them when I'm trying to respond to and more appropriately listen to people like my children or my good friends, and they're telling me about a bad day they had or an issue that's happening in their life. It's given me a much different, better context of understanding how to sit and listen so that I can validate what they're saying and truly help them feel understood. And I think that when you can do that for somebody who's in a crisis or really struggling, it really helps initiate the healing process.
Sometimes we just want to show up for each other and we don't know how. And I think that that's the beauty of this ATIP class is teaching us how to show up for each other, and that we do have the skills, and that the power of presence and just being there is so important. You'll hear us say, just shut up, show up, and listen. And it's very meaningful to be there for each other, and it makes a difference. We can't stop bad things from happening. They're going to happen. And if we know how to help somebody on their darkest day, how to be there for them, we can prevent what we call the secondary injury. That injury is feeling like we were all alone and not supported. And by having a well-trained, caring person there for you, it makes all the difference in the world. How we show up for each other ultimately impacts the way that we heal. And we can start healing even in the midst of crisis.
As a first responder, we are trained to take action. We are trained to see a set of variables in front of us and know what to do to make a person's problem go away. But at the end of the day, we see a lot of sadness, and we can't bring somebody back from the dead, or we can't make a car wreck unhappen. So we are really good at those mitigation skills, but one thing we're not great at necessarily is learning how to then shift, once the call has been mitigated, into a support role and a caring role. And the ETIPS class is an excellent set of tools to help us learn how to shift into showing up, like Kimber just mentioned, in a way that is now supportive and caring, more so than trying to fix. And so it really, really is a powerful set of tools to really help people in our community, people that we work with, and people that we love and care about get through hard times.